Heading westwards, they journeyed through a tree-lined alleyway. The elf showed signs of terror, but Rubicon held their silent pact. All light was fading, and Delph broke the silence.
Her Majesty has called upon the wards of darkness to conceal the underworld's source of light. She fears an intruder. Perhaps you should not have slayed that dozy griffin.
Rubicon just mentioned the wolves.
Whoa!
Delph shrieked with horror and clung to his leg.
But they won't harm us, will they?
I'll protect you as long as you get me to those stairs. After entering the forest of berries, they rested. Delph disappeared and returned with her pockets filled with ashen and stamel-coloured berries, like sallowthorn and wild herbs.
I shall cook a broth.
Later, sat around the flickering flames, they drank the soup from bark, exchanged stories, and Hexapod danced. Suddenly, Delph became alert, demanded silence, and threw dirt onto the fire. All heard the just audible sound of the pounding of the ground, caused from a far-off pack of wolves and mastiffs. Queen Fetish had sent her first warning. And let out a univocal howl of rage to the skies. The underworld's folk had been admonished.
The wolves will far outnumber us. One cry for relief, and there will be a multitude of reinforcements.
In darkness, the three haunched. The first batch of bloodthirsty animals passed by. An eerie silence prevailed, and just as Rubicon thought the coast was clear, there came the delicate sound of scouts.
Should I die, promise me you'll care for my friend.
And she ran away, deliberately making a noise. Rubicon shuddered as he overheard the monsters discuss tactics. They split into 3 directions. He knew that any killing must be done with a blade. The first hound approached their hiding place, and as he was distracted, Rubicon leapt onto the creature, squeezed its jaws together, and stabbed it repeatedly. Hexapod then ran in front of Rubicon, but he saw why, and reacting swiftly, he severed the second wolf's head to save his ally. Number 2 was dead. Come, friend, we must save Delph. Together, they followed the elf's track until Hexapod saw the enemy's spoor. They heard,
Help!
And Rubicon sprinted to see the third wolf clawing up a tree. So, using Sazabla as a spear, he threw it at the ruffian. Her body fell to the ground, and a little voice said,
Phew, that was a close one.
But Delph had injured one of her feet and insisted they depart.
I will slow you down. The others will return, find the dead and ransack the forest, killing anything in sight. I implore you to go now.
Delph, you must direct me to those stairs. And taking the vial, he sniffed Lady Duck's potion, and grabbing both of his friends, he ran like a stag with the wind. The scenery became unrecognizable, but he felt no fatigue until the forest tapered out and the ground rose up, leading to the two monumental turtles who symbolized the beginning of the great gray stairs. Their run ended. A deadbeat Rubicon put his friends down. Then they heard a wild cry of anguish from the pack. Delph, Hexapod, it's time we part company.
What?
My dangers will increase, and you are not allowed up there.
Rubicon, if you leave us now, we are going to be yummy bait for those wolves.
Hexapod jumped up and down and pointed to a trail of blood leading to where they stood.
Anyway, the Queen will understand our predicament and forgive us. You are an important courier.
The knight felt awkward about his deceit. It was time for honesty. I have been masquerading behind a lie. My real mission here is to do away with your queen. Dumbstruck, Delph summoned up the courage to speak.
Rubicon, you choose this amazing moment to confide in us when we are caught between two impending evils, that of death by the wolves or the Queen's rage. Oh, a charming choice, I must say. Well, she has long been manipulated by her counselor Leghead. He is a Unipede, the dreaded enemies of the Leps, and has almost managed to wipe us out. So, brave knight, I also have something to fight for. I can die for the valor and history of my people.
Well, Delph, I want you to inhale from this. And he handed over Lady Duck's magical miracle worker. After taking 2 large sniffs, her seeping wound healed. Rubicon also inhaled up the dusty old steps. These rose into the mountainside where bored into the rock was a cave and a basalite gaga with prominent eyes. Was this fetish's security looking-glass? Poor Hexapod was having difficulty climbing the steepy steps, so Rubicon rested it on his shoulders. After a long walk, with their strengths waning, they saw a light ahead. The stairway ended with 3 identical arches. On the floor was a mosaic star. A sudden beam of light shone onto the star. Light oscillated and reflected through the middle archway. They followed suit. Evil trickery hopes that a good person will not submit to any given signs, and by taking the opposite, you prepare your own doom. The dim corridor smelt of dried blood. Hanging from lintels above were hundreds of knights' corpses. It looked like a perverse abattoir. Directed Rubicon's attention from the swaying inert flesh to what lay ahead. A gigantic bed built out of topaz and lapis lazuli. Astonished, they saw the owner lying on the mattress. A Briarean giant, renowned for its 100 arms and its enormous sexual appetite. It certainly wasn't fussy what it got its hands on too. Rubicon's spine chilled at the mere thought of having to battle this formidable character.
We need to pass him and open the door behind. Hexapod could cross over his body as we go under the bed.
She explained via hand signals, but Hexapod was too rotund to go with his friends. Rubicon and Delph started to crawl as Hexapod climbed up one of the bed's legs. They watched its first nervous steps before entering the dark fissure. Eventually, Hexapod scampered over the body and jumped. His dusty friend slid over, and opening the door without incident, they entered another, much more was lit from very high chandeliers. The walls were decorated by tapestries commemorating the Queen's reign. Unexpectedly, tiny doors down each wall were being levered up to reveal an army of Niveus hedgehogs, their backs inlaid with a perilous coat of spire or daggers. What are we gonna do now? Fight?
No, stay calm and hope that this will trick them.
This is no time for party tunes.
Shut up! In my world, violence is only used as a last resort.
She then played a jaunty fanfaronade tune, and Rubicon watched the snarling war-like troop of hedgehogs advance. Just as he was about to draw his sword, they started to crash into one another. A pathway cleared, and Delph led the way, still playing her tune. Rubicon saw some hedgehogs tending to their wounded, and he felt sad. I'm sorry, Delph, but what did you play?
The melody from an ancient pen known to every hedgehog, which celebrated a decisive victory over the giant green-whiskered cats. I knew it would momentarily release them from the Queen's spell. Nostalgia always numbs nastiness.
They entered an oval-shaped temple area surrounded by ionic pillars. The Pantheon was bathed in a glorious icy blue light. The lowered floor was decorated by the 5 heretic emblems, and resting before a black moth-eaten draped altar was Leghead. The creature was of an xanthic color which repulsed the eye. Its formation was even more repugnant, as its legs were attached to either side of its head. This blob was the most deformed physical attribute ever. Rubicon saw its enormous, dribbling mouth. Yuck! Turning his attentions away from his opponent, he realized that the palsy blue of the room was sinking into his flesh. He would have to deal with Leghead quickly before the room ate away all his strength. Servant to Her Majesty, where is your master?
What are you doing here, Lep? Go, infidel, before I destroy you for breaking my rest and being so impudent.
You have not answered my question, vile creature!
And I shall not. Beware, you fools!
As Leghead somersaulted into the air, Hexapod dived into the shadows, leaving this battle to his friends. Delph unsheathed her dagger as the twirling attacker, squealing like a banshee, aimed for her. Within seconds, he was about to stab Delph with a tiny crooked scimitar. She swerved, but Leg had slashed through her coat and closed in for the kill. But due to his hate for the elf species, it had forgotten about Rubicon, who sliced the creature in half, causing the legs to shoot off into different directions. The pillars dripped with a hot, rancid-smelling, oozing phlegm.
How are you, Delph? What, me? Strong as an ox. Thank you, Rubicon, for saving my...
Shh! Our battles are not yet over. Hexapod discovered a hidden door, and they entered a narrow, fetid tunnel lined with slime, murex, and Badugua moss from the Miocene epoch.